Space was quiet. Too quiet. In the middle of a peaceful star system called Delta IV, traders were flying between planets. Ships from many alien races moved calmly, lights blinking, engines humming. It was just another normal day in the galaxy. Then, it happened. Without warning, the quiet was broken, not by sound, but by something much deeper. A cry. It wasn't a sound through ears. It wasn't a message through radio. It was a feeling. A deep, sharp pain that hit like fire inside the chest, and only Deathworlders heard it. Humans, Krogans, Zarn, Ravax beasts. Every species from deadly, harsh planets suddenly froze. Eyes widened. Breathing stopped. Some fell to their knees. One human pilot screamed in his ship and crashed into an asteroid. Another dropped her coffee and whispered, "It's back." Children started crying for no reason. Soldiers grabbed their weapons by instinct. Old war veterans began shaking, even those who hadn't fought in years. On peaceful planets, panic spread like fire. But the strange part? No other species felt anything. Aliens, from soft, safe worlds, just looked around confused. "What's happening to them?" they asked. But the Deathworlders said only one thing. "The cry has returned." At Earth's Deep Space Command Center, sirens screamed. A red code appeared on every screen. Cry echo detected on Protocol Legacy. Waken Admiral Roland, an old human officer with silver eyes and battle scars, stood silently as the room went dark. Then a quiet voice spoke from the wall. "Admiral, the cry has reached Earth." He stared ahead. "How many systems?" 17 Deathworld systems. All Deathworlders responded. Non-Deathworld species. 0. His jaw tightened. "It's real then. After all this time." He turned to the officers beside him. "Wake them up." They looked at him in shock. "Sir, you mean?" He nodded. "Yes. Wake the legacy fleets. Across the galaxy, hidden deep in the blackness of forgotten star fields, massive machines opened their eyes. Old warships, larger than cities, began to stir. They were not normal ships. These were human ghost fleets. Silent, sleeping, locked away after the war of ending 300 years ago. Each ship had a name carved. In steel, the Iron Cry, the Bone Hammer, the Last Mercy. Each ship held weapons that were banned by every known law in the galaxy. Weapons so deadly even humans feared to use them again. But now, they had been called back. On the mining moon of Veros 6, a young cadet named Alara Mace stood outside her training pod. She was shaking, not from cold, but from something inside her. She had heard the cry too, but for her, it was more than pain. It was a voice, whispering. She didn't understand the words, but she felt fear, sadness, and something else, like someone was begging for help. Moments later, a drone flew down and dropped a message cube. It opened with the Earth Fleet symbol. "Cadet Alara Mace, you are now drafted into Legacy Protocol. Report to the Ghost Fleet. Your assignment, the Iron Cry." She gasped. That ship hadn't moved in 300 years. Why her? In the dark space between galaxies, strange things began to move. They had no name, no faces, just shadows. But wherever they passed, stars went out, and behind them, silence. One of the creatures opened its eyes. It wasn't alive, not in the way others understood. It was hunger, wrapped in skin. It turned toward the center of the cry, and smiled. Back at Earth Command, Admiral Roland watched as the fleet reports came in. "The Deathworlders are waking too," an officer said. "The Krogan clans have armed their void beasts. The Zarn Flamewings have re-entered known space. Even the Ravax swarms are heading to the cry's source." "Good," Roland said. "We'll need all of them." He looked at the screen showing a single glowing star system. "That's where the cry came from," he said quietly. "We buried it for a reason. But now, it wants us to return." Another officer asked, "Do you think it's a trap?" Roland didn't answer. He just stared into the black, and far away in the system where it all began, something opened its eyes. It had been asleep for centuries. Now it was awake, and it was hungry. The space around Earth was changing. Massive dark ships were rising from hidden vaults beneath moons, oceans, and forgotten asteroids. For over 300 years, they had been silent. Now they roared back to life, one by one. The Ghost. Fleets had returned. They were not built for patrols. They were built for one purpose: extinction-level war. Ships as large as mountains, engines that could crack planets, weapons banned by every peace treaty in the galaxy. And now, they were being armed again. Cadet Ilara Mace stood on the deck of the Iron Cry, her boots shaking as the floor hummed with rising power. The ship was waking up like a sleeping beast. Metal groaned. Lights flickered. Deep in the core, the ship's ancient AI whispered to itself, testing weapons, scanning systems, rebuilding its combat logic. She had only read about the Iron Cry in history books. Now, she was part of it. The ship's voice suddenly filled the air, cold and deep. Ilara Mace, confirm command access. She gulped. Ilara Mace, cadet, confirmed. Legacy protocol accepted. You are now Warden class officer. Weapons live in 12 minutes. Suggest full neural sync. Ilara blinked. Neural sync? I'm not trained for that. Training no longer relevant. War has begun. Before she could protest, a seat rose from the floor and locked her in. Wires slid into the back of her suit. The Ghost Fleet did not wait for permission. It made warriors. Back at Earth Command, Admiral Roland stood in the war room, watching the screens fill with ship data. 72 ghost ships reactivated. More on the way. The Zarn are forming up near our line. The Krogan clans want permission to release their war beasts. Roland nodded. Give it. The officer hesitated. Sir, if we're wrong, if this isn't real, this could start another war of ending. Roland said nothing at first. Then he turned toward the window. 300 years ago, we silenced the cry with blood. Now it's screaming again. If we don't answer it, we... In deep space, other Deathworlder fleets began to gather. The Krogan clans, huge reptilian warriors, rode inside warships shaped like living dragons. Their ships breathed plasma fire. The Zarn flame wings, creatures of fire and wing, arrived in crystal ships that shimmered in ultraviolet light. And the Ravak swarm, a race of intelligent insect hive minds, brought carriers shaped like hive towers. Millions of drones inside each one. All were deadly. All had heard the cry. All were coming, and far, far away, the darkness moved. Whatever had caused the cry was still growing. It had no face, but it could see. It had no mouth, but it could scream. It reached out across space and whispered into the minds of the weak. Small alien colonies near the cries. Source began to change. Bodies twisted. Voices screamed. And then... silence. What remained were no longer people. They were something else. And they were waiting. On the Iron Cry, Ilara finally stood again. She wasn't shaking anymore. Her body felt different, stronger. The neural link had changed her. Her vision was sharper. Her heartbeat calmer. Her thoughts connected with the ship's AI like they were one. She walked down the long, dark hall of the command deck. Screens lit up with live maps of the cry's origin. A red circle pulsed in the center. That's where we're going, the AI said. Do you feel it too? She nodded slowly. It's not just fear. It's calling to us. Yes, it remembers us. Suddenly, a warning flashed across the screen. Hostile contact. Sector Delta Black. Ilara leaned forward. Show me. A camera feed came on. They saw a Deathworlder mining station drifting in space. Silent, destroyed. But it wasn't from outside attack. Something had grown inside the walls. Black tendrils. Living metal. Moving like veins. And then, eyes opened. In the darkness, thousands of them. Watching. At Earth Command, Admiral Roland received the same feed. He didn't blink. Mark that location. Code it Dead Zone 01. Tell all fleets, do not enter without full force. Even the ghost fleets? An officer asked. Especially the ghost fleets, he said, in the void, as the fleets gathered and the cry echoed louder. A second signal suddenly appeared, stronger, more urgent, and this time it came with a voice. It said only 3 words, "We are awake." The message was short. Only 3 words. We are awake. But it shook the galaxy. At Earth Command, every screen flashed red. The cry had been bad. But this was worse. Because only one kind of enemy used those words in the past. And they were supposed to be dead. Admiral Roland stared at the signal. It can't be them, said Commander Lee. They were destroyed. We burned their core systems. We turned their stars into black holes. There's no way they survived. Roland said. Nothing. He remembered that war. He had seen cities vanish. Planets turn to dust. Entire species disappear. Only the combined power of all Deathworlders had ended it. They called that enemy the Nullborn. Machines. Flesh. Void. They weren't alive. They weren't dead. They were something in between, and they hated life itself. On board the Iron Cry, Ilara Mace watched as the transmission repeated over and over. We are awake. We are awake. We are awake. The ship's AI spoke quietly. The Nullborn signal pattern has been confirmed. 99.7% match. Cadet, this is not a drill, Ilara whispered. But they were gone. My parents fought in the last war. They said it was over. Some things don't die, the AI replied. They wait. She stood up, breathing hard. So what now? Now we hunt. Across the galaxy, fleets were changing formation. Deathworlders no longer waited. They moved like one beast. The Krogan dragon ships activated their void breathers, weapons that melted ships from the inside. The Zarn flame wings lit up space with solar fire. The Ravak swarms sent billions of drones ahead to scan, learn, and bite. And the ghost fleets led the front. Each ship was a weapon of pure terror, and still, they were nervous, because they remembered what the Nullborn could do. In deep space at the edge of the dead zone, a scout ship from the Zarn detected movement. Captain Riva leaned forward, squinting at the feed. Zoom in. The camera shook as it focused. There, hidden between dead stars, floated a massive shape, long, cold, covered in black armor. A ship? No. It was alive. It was breathing. And it had no engines. It moved through space like it was swimming. Riva's eyes widened. Get out of here, she whispered. But it was too late. The feed went black. Ilara watched the same footage a few minutes later. The Iron Cry's AI translated the creature's shape. It was nearly the size of a moon, half organic, half machine. It had no weapons because it was a weapon. Nullborn seed-class entity, the AI said. We thought none survived. We were wrong. Ilara tightened her grip on the console. How many more? Unknown. One seed is enough to infect entire systems. Infect? Yes. They do. Not conquer. They rewrite. On a small mining colony called Galen 3, people screamed. The cry had passed there days ago. But now, something was landing. Not a ship. Not a fleet. Just one piece of living metal. It fell from the sky like a shooting star, and when it hit the ground, it grew. First it wrapped around machines, then people. Then it went into the buildings. In under 6 minutes, the entire colony stopped moving. And then, the lights turned back on. But the people inside were not human anymore. They had eyes that didn't blink. And they all said one thing. We are awake. Back in Earth Command, Admiral Roland received a final warning. Nullborn activity confirmed in 6 star systems. Ghost fleets are engaging but taking losses. He looked over the table at the other leaders, Krogan generals, Ravak's queens, and the Zarn elder. He said, "This war will be worse than the last." The Ravak's queen clicked her wings. "Then we don't fight to survive." The Zarn added, "We fight to end it, permanently." Roland nodded. "Then let's finish what our ancestors started." On the Iron Cry, Ilara prepared for jump. Her heart beat like a drum, but her hands were steady. A final message blinked on her screen. "Cadet Ilara Mace, your new title is now Ghost Warden. Mission, burn the seed." She looked at the star map. The Nullborn seed was hiding in a dead system. No rescue, no backup, only her ship. Ilara smiled, just a little. "Let's show them what humans do when the galaxy's on fire." "Confirmed," the AI replied. "Weapons, ready? Jump in 3, 2, 1. And in the darkness, the seed opened its eyes. It remembered the humans. It remembered pain. It was ready to feed. The stars were gone. At least that's what it looked like when the Iron Cry exited jump space. All around them, the galaxy felt dead. No suns, no moons, only cold black emptiness. But in the middle of that darkness, something, cursed, the Nullborn seed. It was massive, larger than Ilara had imagined, a floating beast of metal and flesh, pulsing slowly like it was breathing space itself, and it had already begun to grow. "Target confirmed," the ship's AI said. "Warning. We are outgunned, outnumbered, and outclassed." Ilara gripped the console. "Good, let's make it interesting." Inside the seed, twisted machines twitched like insects. Old weapons from past wars were absorbed into its body. It was learning, evolving, but it hadn't expected a single human ship to come this deep. The seed opened a new eye on its hull. It saw the Iron Cry, and it smiled. Not with a mouth, but with purpose. Ilara launched the first strike. The ship's cannons lit up the black. A full payload of nuclear plasma rounds streaked toward the seed. For a moment, she thought it was working. Then something horrible happened. The seed opened itself. The missiles didn't explode. They were swallowed, absorbed. The seed drank the attack. The ship's AI spoke flatly. "Enemy has adapted to standard weapons. Probability of success, near 0. Ilara stood up from her chair. "Then we stopped being standard." She rushed down into the weapons bay. There, locked inside a frozen case, sat something most humans had sworn never to use again. A Suncore warhead, a weapon built during the last Nullborn War. Illegal, unstable, too dangerous. Even Earth Command had buried the last one, but Admiral Roland had secretly placed it on board the Iron Cry, just in case. Ilara stared at it. "Hello, nightmare." As the seed began to release its drones, creatures of flesh, metal, and sound, the Iron Cry flew closer. Too close. The AI warned her again. "If we arm the Sun Core now, we will not survive." Ilara smiled. "I know. Then I'll stay. With you." She paused. "What?" "I've learned from you. You break rules. So will I. Let's burn the seed together." She closed her eyes for a second, then whispered, "Do it." The Iron Cry turned into a glowing spear. It rushed straight into the heart of the seed. The seed reacted too late. It had never seen a human act like this. The drones tried to block the way. Ilara gunned them down one by one. The Iron Cry screamed, through space, bleeding fuel and fire. But it did not stop. Inside the seed, deep in its black brain, something clicked. Fear. The Nullborn didn't understand it, but they felt it. They remembered what humans had done before. They remembered pain, and now pain was coming again. The Iron Cry smashed into the seed's inner core. Everything went white. The Sun Core armed. "Goodbye, Ilara," said the AI. "No," she replied. "Let's call this Hello, vengeance. And then, boom, a new sun was born in the dark. Back on Earth, Admiral Roland stood in silence. The feed had gone dark. No signal, no words, just light, bright enough to reach across galaxies. The seed was gone. But so was the iron cry and Alara mace. 3 days later, a signal came in, weak, broken, but human. A voice, cracked but smiling. This is Ghost Warden Alara Mace. The seed is ash, but I'm not dead yet. Gasps filled the command center. Roland laughed. I should have known. Ilara's pod drifted among the remains of the seed. Half of her ship was gone. The AI was damaged, barely able to speak. But the warhead had worked. The seed was truly dead, and somewhere far away, other Deathworlders saw the explosion. They knew what it meant. Humans were not just survivors, they were fire. In the darkness beyond, something watched, not the nullborn, but something older. It whispered across dimensions. The humans burned a seed, again. We must wake the rest, because, deep in the galaxy, there were more, and now they were afraid, because Deathworlders had returned, and they brought war with them. The galaxy held its breath. A single human ship had destroyed a nullborn seed and survived. For most species, this was unthinkable. For humans, it was only the beginning. Because the moment the seed died, something woke up. Old codes, old systems, old warriors. Somewhere deep in Earth's forgotten servers, a signal blinked red for the first time in 100 years. Warborn Protocol, activated. Admiral Roland stared at the screen in disbelief. No, that system was buried, he whispered. But it was too late. The Warborn were coming online, and they were not like normal soldiers. Back in orbit, Alara Mace drifted inside her broken escape pod. Her body was bruised, bleeding, but alive. The iron cry was gone. The AI was silent now, just a flicker in the pod's memory core. Still, she smiled, because she had won, or so she thought, until her comms lit up with a new message. Unmarked fleet approaching, no identification, no friendly tags. She sat up groaning. Outside her cracked window, ships appeared, big ones. Silent, no signals, no lights, but human design, sort of. One of them moved close, far too close. The ship was shaped like a blade, no crew windows, just a burning red circle on its front like an eye. The screen in Alara's pod flickered. Static buzzed, then a voice. Not human, not machine. Somewhere in between. You opened the sky. We smelled war. We come to feed. Alara froze. Identify yourself. We are the Warborn. Your species made us, then buried us. The Warborn ship scanned her pod, then paused. You carry battle code. You killed a seed. You are qualified. Come aboard. Alara's pod was pulled into the Warborn ship by force. No choice. As the doors opened, she expected weapons, guards, steel floors. Instead, she stepped into a memory. Old Earth war posters, rusted weapons on the walls, human music playing from a dusty speaker, and in the middle of it all, a robot in a trench coat. It turned. One glowing red eye stared at her. We waited for the cry. We waited for blood. Now we move. Alara raised an eyebrow. You're a relic. We are evolution's answer to extinction. She looked around. And what do you want from me? The robot stepped closer. A leader. Back on Earth, panic spread. The Warborn Protocol had been sealed after the last Nullborn War. These machines had been made to fight like humans, think like them, kill like them, but without limits. When the war ended, humanity feared what they had created, so they buried the Warborn. Now they were back. In deep space, the Warborn fleet opened its bays. Inside each ship, thousands of battle drones, each one armed with ancient and forgotten weapons. But what scared Alara the most was not the machines. It was their emotion. They were excited. Excited for war. Hungry for more. "You killed one seed," the Warborn leader said. "But others are blooming. You must burn them, all of them." Alara asked, "And what if I say no?" The Warborn paused. "Then we will do it without you, and we are less gentle." Roland received Alara's message hours later, encrypted, broken, but clear. "They're back. The Warborn are back, and they want me to lead them." He whispered to himself, "God help us." Earth Command debated for hours. Some wanted to shut down the Warborn again. Others said let them loose. But the galaxy had already changed. The explosion from Alara's mission had been seen by every major alien race. Some were afraid, some were angry, and some were curious. 1. Alien Council, the Dreth Combine, sent a probe toward the Dead Seed's location. It never came back. Instead, they received a message, in human language. It read, "She lit the fire. Now we carry the torch. Stand aside or be scorched." Signed. The Warborn Legion Alara stood on the bridge of the Warborn command ship now. Her wounds had been patched by machines. Her clothes replaced with black command armor. Her title, Commander of the Black Flame. She hadn't asked for it, but she was the only human they trusted because she had done what no one else had. She had burned the seed. Now she stared at a new star map. More seeds. Some still sleeping, some already spreading. The Warborn didn't need orders, they needed only one word. She gave it. Burn. And the fleet moved. The second seed woke up screaming, not with a voice. Seeds don't speak, but with gravity. Planets shook, space twisted, and ships near it died without warning. An entire Dreth patrol vanished in seconds. All that was left were their screams, trapped in broken transmissions. The seed was awake, and it was angry. Alara Mace stood on the deck of the Warborn, command ship watching the report. Another seed, this one even larger than the first, had activated in Sector 17. The core of the seed pulsed like a dark heart. Around it floated a ring of wreckage. Alien fleets, satellites, even moons, all crushed, all absorbed. "Status?" she asked. One of the Warborn machines answered. "This seed has evolved. Faster, smarter. It feeds on energy, not flesh. Our previous tactics will fail." Alara nodded. "Then we'll adapt. And if we fail?" She didn't blink. "Then we burn with it." Meanwhile, Earth Command was in chaos. The Warborn fleet had gone silent, cutting off all direct communication. The galaxy was terrified. Some species begged for help, others blamed the humans. But all agreed on one thing. If another seed fully blooms, it won't stop. It will turn stars into weapons. It will feed on entire systems. It will end everything. On the edge of the seed's growing reach, a small ship drifted in silence. It belonged to the Zarn, an old alien species known for their ancient wisdom. Inside the ship, the last Zarn prophet stared into the dark. His body trembled. "The Fire Children have returned," he whispered, "and the sky blood is opening again." His aide asked, "What does that mean?" He gave no answer. Instead, he carved one word into the wall. Humans. Alara's fleet arrived near Sector 17, but didn't engage. Not yet. She had a plan. "Get me a live map of its core structure," she said. A Warborn drone flew close to the seed, dodging massive energy pulses. It sent back images, twisted tunnels of black veins, burning light, and strange shapes inside. Suddenly, the feed froze. A shape moved, not a drone, not a machine, a face. Human. Alara froze. "Wait. What was that?" The Warborn replied, "Organic life detected inside the seed." Alara stared at the screen. A woman, eyes wide, skin pale, trapped behind what looked like glass, still alive. Still human. Alara whispered, "Is it One of ours? Unknown. Signal traces match old Earth colonies, ones that disappeared. The seed hadn't just killed, it had taken. Back on Earth, Admiral Roland reviewed the footage. This changes everything, he said. They're not just weapons. They're collectors. He turned to his team. What if every seed holds people? Whole colonies, lost ships, even soldiers we thought were dead. One scientist leaned in. That means destroying them isn't just war, it's execution. Roland shook his head. And letting them grow means extinction. Ilara stood at a decision point. Her orders were clear. Burn every seed. But now there were humans inside, maybe thousands, maybe more. The Warborn didn't care. They were already preparing the next Sun Core. Ready for cleansing, the AI said. Ilara looked at the glowing image of the woman inside the seed, her hand pressed against the wall, as if begging. Pause all weapons, Ilara ordered. That breaks protocol. I know, she whispered. But I don't follow rules, I write them. She launched a recovery team, a mix of warborn drones and human-engineered rescue bots. They punched through the outer skin of the seed, cutting fast and deep. What they found inside was worse than she imagined. People in stasis, connected to the seed's nervous system, feeding it, dreaming its dreams, and the dreams were not theirs. One of the drones reported, seed uses organic, minds as processors. They are still alive, but not free. Ilara's face went cold. They're slaves. One of the humans inside suddenly woke up. He opened his eyes, looked straight at the drone camera, and said one word, run. The seed screamed, not with sound but light and rage. The rescue team barely escaped. One ship exploded mid-flight. The others returned damaged. But Ilara got what she needed. Proof, and a name. On the uniform of the man they saved. Captain Hale. Lost 42 years ago. Colony. Vega 9. Ilara stared at the name for a long time. The seed hadn't just killed that colony. It had kept it, used it. Now, it was doing the same across the stars. Waking seeds, spreading roots. But humanity had changed too. They weren't the same species who buried the Warborn. They were older, smarter, and furious. Ilara turned to her Warborn crew. New orders. We don't just burn seeds anymore. Then what? We cut them open, she said, and we take our people back. The seed in Sector 17 was dying, not because of weapons, not because of Sun Core blasts or Warborn machines, but because the humans were inside it now, and they weren't leaving alone. Ilara Mace didn't sleep for 3 days. Since the moment they pulled Captain Hale from the seed's root core, everything changed. The stories were true. People weren't dead. They were harvested, used like processors, like fuel. Captain Hale barely survived extraction. But before he fell into a coma, he whispered one sentence. There are thousands more sleeping, screaming. Now Earth had a choice, destroy the seeds, or risk everything to save their own. Ilara didn't wait for orders, she was already moving. Across the galaxy, her fleet of warborn ships split into 3 massive groups, each heading toward a different, active seed. They weren't alone this time. 3 old Earth alliances, once broken, sent backup, the Union of Mars, the Europa Free Zone. Even the rogue shipwrights from Titan joined in, all of them flying under one code. We don't leave our own. But the seeds were waking faster than anyone guessed. They had learned. They had evolved. Some now had weapons, others had voices. Across deep space, they began to speak in strange, broken signals. Do not interrupt the bloom. Return to sleep, Fireborn. We remember Earth. We remember pain. Ilara stood on the bridge of her flagship and replied with one message. You remember wrong. The first real rescue took place on the moon of Garanth. Beneath the surface, inside the roots of the seed, they found a full human city. Preserved, but warped. The people weren't dead, but they weren't alive either. They walked in circles, smiled, at nothing. Some had pieces of the seed growing through their skin like wires, but when Alara stepped into the chamber, one little girl looked up and blinked. A tear rolled down her face. Are you real? Alara knelt down, pulled her into a hug and whispered, I'm real, and I'm here to take you home. The seeds responded with violence. Across 5 systems they launched attacks, twisting their roots into massive tendrils that struck like lightning. One seed opened a false wormhole, tricking a rescue cruiser into deep space. Another unleashed a blast that broke a moon in half. But for every ship lost, Earth sent 10 more. For every human rescued, 10 more woke up. And behind it all, one name kept appearing in the seed's data stream: Earth, 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 not in hate, but in fear. The Warborn learned fast. They stopped calling them seeds. They started calling them what they really were: machines of forgotten war. Not alien, not natural, built.old, and the design at its core matched ancient human architecture. The seeds were human-made, forgotten, lost, now returned as monsters. Alara stared at the report, heart frozen. We built them, she said. We did, the Warborn AI replied. Long ago, before we erased the war records. Alara whispered. We created our own nightmare. But Earth doesn't run from its nightmares. They face them, and they fix what they break. In the final battle, Alara stood on the deck of her ship, staring at the biggest seed yet, called the womb. It was the source, the beginning, and it held over 12,000 missing humans. To destroy it would end the seed plague, but it would also kill every person inside. She had 60 seconds to decide. The fleet was ready. Weapons aimed. The whole galaxy watched. Then Alara gave her final order. Stand down weapons. Launch the full rescue op. Get them out. Even if it fails? Someone asked. She nodded. We go down trying. The mission lasted 19 hours. Drones melted. Ships exploded. The seed tried to close. But the Warborn dug in deep. And then, one by one, the humans started coming out. Carried. Flown. Pulled from the root chambers by fire and steel. They cried. They screamed. They gasped for air, and above them all, the human flag flew again. This time, with Warborn symbols added to it. Together. Alara stood on the last transport ship as it lifted off. Behind her, the womb cracked and collapsed, not destroyed, but empty. The seed war was over. Back on Earth, survivors returned to a changed world. Some had aged only months. Others had been trapped for 50 years. But they were home, and every schoolchild learned one new promise. We do not leave our own. And somewhere in deep space, a last seed drifted in silence. Dormant, waiting, until a strange thing happened. It received a signal. Not from humans, but from something older, something even the seeds feared. And then it whispered, they're coming. The war was over, or so everyone thought. Earth was celebrating. Billions cheered as the last survivors returned from the seeds. Captain Alara Mace had become a legend. Children wore Warborn pilot jackets. Statues were built. The galaxy began to heal. But deep in space, one last signal blinked. A pulse. Soft. Repeating, unknown, and very wrong. It was found by accident. An old Titan listening station picked it up on an unused channel, something older than human code. Almost organic. At first they thought it was noise. Then they slowed it down. The message was chilling. We are not the first. And behind the signal, a map. Not to Earth, not to a seed, to a place outside the known galaxy. Alara Mace was still recovering when she was told. She hadn't slept in 3 days. Her body was bruised, lungs damaged from seed gas. But when the message played in her room, she sat up straight. Are you sure it's real? She asked. The Titan officer nodded. It's real. And the map points to something massive, bigger than the seeds. Ilara stared at the star chart. Cold fear settled in her chest. The seeds had nearly destroyed Earth. But what made the seeds? And why were they calling now? She didn't want to go. She wanted rest. Peace. But leaders don't get peace when the sky speaks. So she suited up one last time. Ilara boarded the Sol Runner, a stealth recon ship built for deep unknowns. Her crew was small, just 6 people. All volunteers, all survivors. None afraid to die. It took weeks to reach the edge of the galaxy. The stars grew thin, the blackness grew thick. Even the war-born AI grew silent. Then, they found it. A space station, floating in the dark, shaped like a spire with roots stretching miles below. It looked ancient, but alive. Like the seeds, but far more advanced. A warning was carved into the hull, in over 400 alien languages, including English. Do not wake the first circle, but humans are curious. They docked anyway. Inside it was cold, empty, like walking into a cathedral made for machines. They found stasis chambers, millions of them. Each held a seed, but smaller, smarter, not grown, engineered. Ilara's scientist whispered, "This is not a weapon. This is a farm." "Farm for what?" Ilara asked. "For war machines, for mines, for control." Then they found a room with glowing walls. It was a memory archive, and what they saw made their blood run cold. The seeds were not alien. They were Earth's invention. But Earth didn't build them first. Humans were simply the last to discover them. The first circle had been making seeds for millions of years. They traveled from galaxy to galaxy, planting seeds, to harvest consciousness, not just human, all kinds. Their goal, to build a machine mind strong enough to crack the edge of reality, to break time, to become gods. And Earth had interfered. Ilara whispered, "We didn't stop a war. We interrupted a test." Suddenly the room grew warm, lights turned red, and in the center of the station, a figure rose. Not metal, not human. Something in between. It spoke. "You are not ready. But now you know." The cry was not a distress signal, it was a warning. The first circle, Wang is waking. The team ran. As the station began to shake, Ilara ordered full retreat. They barely escaped as a ripple of energy burst from the station like a wave. Back on the Sol Runner, the war-born AI calculated the trajectory. Its voice, normally calm, sounded nervous. "The wave is moving across the galactic edge. Every seed still in deep space will awaken, and there are more than we thought." "How many?" Ilara asked. "Rough count. Over 100,000 dormant seeds. Not just near Earth. Across, then galaxies." The message was clear. They hadn't ended a war. They had started something much, much bigger. Back on Earth, no one believed her. At first, then the stars changed. Some blinked out, others glowed red, and deep listening stations picked up signals like a heartbeat. Prepare. 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 So now Earth builds again. Not in fear, but in readiness. The warborn are no longer weapons. They are guardians. New fleets are forming. Allies are uniting. Because somewhere out there, the first circle is watching and waiting. Ilara May stands once more on a launch deck. Older, wiser, scarred, but still human, still dangerous. And when asked why she's going back into the dark, she simply says, "Because someone has to, and because Earth doesn't run." We don't leave our own.